build this robotic system to just go behind each individual cell, every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So, and then, from those information, we can calculate their uh, behavior, change in behavior, right? Because we monitor them periodically, and also, have this imaging processing pipeline to, quantify the level of swollenness in the vulva region and combine those features. So far, we've been getting, pretty promising result.
Welcome, everybody, to the Swine Canada podcast show. I am Dan Columbus, and I will be your host for today's episode. And with me today, I have our guest, who is Dr. Ziteng Xu, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Poultry Science at Texas A&M University. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's my honor.
Yeah. So some of our listeners might not be familiar with you, especially considering your poultry science for a lot of it. I'll just ask that you kind of introduce yourself and let us know a little bit about your background.
So, yeah, sure. Actually, I started my PhD study trying to focus on poultry. It's kind of funny, and that's because I think after a year, so I was planning my study, my research, but then COVID started, so all of the arrangement with the experiment had to stop because I can't travel anymore. So I kind of had to find another topic. So then I switched to doing research on pig. So that's how I got into the pig business. So, and after I got my degree, I got this opportunity to go back to do research in poultry. But I'm still doing some research in swine at the same time right now. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. COVID messed up a lot of things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll look at that as a positive that it got you into pigs for a little bit because we always like having people work with our pigs. So basically, I'm assuming then what we're going to talk about is what you did during your PhD. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And you looked at automated estrus detection in both stall housed and in group house sows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got into that and what was the overall goal of your project?
So that project, so we started in a teaching farm with a relatively small number of pig in the same room. So at the time I was trying to learn how to perform back pressure tests. I was having a lot of difficulties. But then the vulva redness, that's a lot easier for me to tell because we only have a very small number of cells in there, so I can kind of remember what they look like. And my background is in electrical engineering, so I'm kind of familiar with imaging processing, all those type of technologies. So it's like maybe we can quantify this change with some deep learning and machine and image processing technologies. So then come up with this idea. So we first had the idea. We first wanted to just do a handheld version of it instead of just having a system that travel behind the stall, to monitor each individual pig. So but then it just feels like this won't help the farmers any in a lot of in a general sense, because they have to use this handheld device and just to measure the volume, the vulva volume, which is really important matrix that we use to determine the ashes. So we build this robotic system to just go behind each individual cell, every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So, and then, from those information, we can calculate their behavior, change in behavior, right? Because we monitor them periodically, and also, have this imaging processing pipeline to, quantify the level of swollenness in the vulva region and combine those features. So far, we've been getting pretty promising result. I think we just got accepted in for one manuscript thing. So we reported the test accuracy for edge detection for about 96%. but that's still based on a relatively small number of cells. But I think the really the one of the benefits, for this system, we don't just envision it to be a automated edge detection system, but it has other potential for precision livestock farming. So we already developed the algorithm to monitor their heart rate through the breathing rate through the you know f- uh, using a 3D camera. So and other type of biometric information we can extract. So we really hope this can be more than that. Provide us as much information as possible to help the swine farmers to be more efficient and make good decisions on the animals and management. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you've talked about it a little bit already, but maybe let's get a little bit more into what specifically is unique about this technology that you're developing.
Yeah. So I think the uniqueness is, I think, is one of them is, this method that we developed to quantify the vulvar swollenness. I think that image processing techniques kind of unique. So it's just combine of different image processing and deep learning techniques together to have this pipeline to monitor it. And the format, I think the uniqueness is still like how we integrate the whole solution, because we did some research, saw what other people were doing. A lot of them are based on ceiling mounted camera. We tried that a little bit, just to use the behavior, but it just comes back to the question that how can we provide as much information as possible to the farmers. And so, if we combine the two different type of operation, one is top view, right, have a camera mounted at the ceiling, and compare to the rear view camera where the system go behind each individual pig. We think the rear view system can provide more information. For example, you can kind of track this over swollenness. That's for one, but for prolapse, either it's rectal region prolapse or vulvar prolapse, and that's something can be detected as well. So just and it could be a cheaper solution because you just need a system to go behind the pig, repeatedly instead of having a bunch of camera. I think it would be pretty difficult to clean. Just the cable
Mhm.
management wise, we feel like that can be quite a hassle, especially for swine industry. It's pretty, the biosecurity is so strict, and you want to be able to deep clean the entire barn every now and then. So that's why we feel like with one camera, one system, it'll be a lot easier to manage.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very interesting. So I guess obviously the question then is, how mature is this? Where are we with this? Are you still largely in the testing phase? Have you tested this on a commercial setting? Like where are we?
Also, we're still pretty early. Like I said, so we run the model on 60 cell. But the result is very convincing, right? 96% test accuracy. That's 96%, and also the false alarm rate is very low, and pretty much all of the false alarm comes in one day before the actual event. So we're trying to work with find some opportunity to replicate this in a larger form, and so then we can, if we can find the opportunity to increase the number of animal in the testing set, then we can be moving pretty fast with this type of technology, because I think it's pretty right, it's pretty intuitive with how this system works. It's just have a robot that a system that tells you, okay, how much, what's the volume of the vulvar region from day to day, and use those information to help guide you. Okay, when is the time uh, to do artificial intelligence? And another advantage is, we can really help farmer with pregnancy tests with the system, because during our study, there's one sow that the farmer when they were doing pregnancy test, it came out negative, but then about 2 to 3 days later, when they did another pregnancy test, it comes back as positive, and that sow actually feral. And when we look at our data, so we don't see this increase in the vulval volume. So this is another advantage of this system, that it can help you check the return estrus and also and use it as an indicator for the pregnancy test. So that can maybe further reduce the labor consumption for the farmers.
Yeah. Have you tested this with? I mean, you've only done 30 sows, so have
60.
you tested? Sorry, 60 sows. Have you tested it with, say, different genetics, or would you expect a difference in maybe your algorithm with a different genetics?
I can't say that for 100% because I didn't test it on different breed. But since the vulvar swollenness, I think this is doesn't have too much of a bias between different breed. I think the main difference comes in parity, because what we see is different parity of sow, they have different swollenness,
Yep.
level of swollenness. Compare, that's something need to be careful about. But it comes in if it comes in, whether different breed will have a very different response. I don't foresee that being a problem. I think
Yeah.
if we add parity into the model, into the deep learning model, to tell the estrus timing, the model can be further improved. But I don't foresee the breed being a problem there.
Yeah, I was just asked because I know when they were using cameras to determine weight of pigs, there were issues where if the breed had dark spots on them, then it wasn't able to detect that area of the pig, right? So a little bit far-fetched, but like you said, looking at different parity is probably something that might be more important when it comes to actually developing the algorithm.
Yeah, that's what our experience showed us. Yeah.
So are there any other limitations potentially with this technology?
So really, the main thing is one of the thing is that of course, right now we're still dealing with small number of animals, so we can't say 100% with 100% confidence that if this comes this product, say we have this product available, it will be the same level of accuracy. So far we can't say that for 100% confidence. The another major thing is that we see that the orientation of the tail, the south tail, sometimes can block the vulvar region. So that can be an issue, because if they there's some sows that we see constantly have their tail blocking the vulvar region. So when that happens, you just can't get the vulvar volume. But you still get the change in activity, but we may lose some accuracy because the vulvar volume of information is not available in those cells. Other studies that use behavior as an indicator for estrus detection have also pretty high accuracy. I think one of the study that published last year got 94%. But both their study and our study have pretty small animal sample size. And the main thing with just using the behavior is that from what we saw, when it's toward the late of the gestation stage, say 20 days after weaning, the behavior pattern is very different when you house the sow in a large commercial barn compared to when you just house a small number of sows. Like the when you house them in a large group, our assumption is that toward the later point they have more energy. When you have a lot of stimulant, noise, all of those coming in, the pig will they will have more energy to react to those environment factor with standing up instead of just still laying down. Because at the early stage they don't seem to care about those. So if we only using the behavior as indicator, we might not be able to detect the return estrus very confidently. Yeah. So that's why we think we need to find a way to make sure that we can capture enough image of pigs to make sure the tail don't block the vulvar region. And there's a way to potentially adjust that, because when we monitor them at 10-minute interval, we have this problem. But when we monitor them at 5-minute interval, all of the sow have uh, have image that we can use in a 24-hour window to capture the vulvar region. And another potential way to improve is to just increase the feed frequency, but don't increase the total amount. Just give them multiple meal in a day, so that way, we can have more opportunity to measure them.
Yeah, force them to get up.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this seems fairly straightforward to implement in, say, a stall housed sow, right, where you can just go up along the back of the pens. How do you see implementation in a group house setting? Or like, are you requiring or assuming that the sows are going to be in crates at some point?
So this can be combined with the electrical sow feeder, right? So the sow will enter the feeding station to get their feed, and when they go in there, the RFID tag, we read their RFID tag, and we have the camera in the back and extract the volume information. So because when we use just the volume to train the model for edge detection, we also got very high accuracy. I think it's 95% test accuracy with tenfold cross validation. So yeah, and also inside of the feeding station, when they're eating feed, they always at this relatively same distance from the camera. Because if they're moving back and forth, this can cause a little bit variation in the calculated vulvar volume. But when they're in a constant location where the distance between their vulvar region and the camera is fixed, that way you get more precise measurement, and that can even further improve the the performance of this model, SGS detection model. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems like something that's very straightforward or common sense, I guess, to look at something like this. And maybe I should have asked you this at the beginning, but I'm like, how did you come up with this idea and using this technology to do this evaluation?
So just spending the time inside of the farm with the animals. So, at the very beginning, we were trying to do something very different than the edge detection system. So just being inside of the farm a lot, just to see how the animal doing, and this is something that I picked up. Just noticed that this, they swallow, it becomes swollen, and in a statistic class that we were learning surface interpolation. So I was like, hey, these two can be combined. If I just remove part of this information and I do a surface interpolation, then I can subtract the two surface and get the shape out. So when you have the shape, you can calculate the volume. So that's how it come out.
Not to make it sound like it's like, but it's amazing that nobody thought of this before. I mean, it's great because it obviously looks like it would have a very good potential and a lot of implications for producers. Not only to not miss those specific heats, right, but also to reduce the labor involved in doing that heat detection. So, very good. So I guess maybe looking forward a little bit, what are things that you're going to be working on with this? And maybe, if you want to mention, other things that you might be working on in pigs. I know you're mostly poultry now, or tried to be poultry again, but what else are we working on?
So in pigs, so right now we're working on another system for farrowing stage. So we believe there's a good opportunity that we can reduce the crushing mortality by at least 50%. We're gonna test our prototype next month. So it's gonna be a very inexpensive system, and again, it's gonna be a multifunctional device, can give farmer more than just reduced crushing mortality, and because we're still under developing and can't share too much about that, but the goal is to really help farmers save a lot of labor and a lot of loss, prevent them to have a lot of loss from crushing stillborn it's I have very high hope for this system. It's gonna be pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing about it. I mean, if it's as successful as your estrus detection, I think the industry will be very interested in knowing what you found. Okay, before we get to our final three questions, if there's one take-home message that you want our listeners to get from today's episode, what would that be?
I think for the industry to move forward, we need to try new things. And I know it's not easy because it's such an important thing, right? We don't want to go into someone's farm and tell them, okay, to just trust our system, right, and not
Yeah.
give them any relief, right? Just blindly trust us with our number. But this has to start somewhere, right? And
Yeah.
I believe there is a way to start somewhere. Through government support or through some producer, give the support. But if we need to move forward with try new technology, either it's the technology that we're developing or other research group, because I feel like there's a lot of promising technology out there, but it just didn't move to the
Yeah.
next step. And yeah, so think either it's from the producer's point of view, from the research point of view, from the grower's point of view. I think the three party need to work together to find a common point that they can move the technology forward to make it more efficient for the farmer's sake, for the producer's sake, for the researcher's sake, like to have a win-win-win situation,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree. Okay, before I let you go, we have our last three questions.
It's time for our famous three. Swine Veterinary Partners offers a full range of animal health and production services to Canadian pork producers. We approach health management through personalized solution with concern for profitability while taking into account performance and the well-being of your animals.
So our first question is, what is your favorite swine or agriculture-related resource?
I think the first one is definitely the animal itself. I like to just spend a lot of time with the animals. I feel like there's a gap there. Lots of the engineers or data scientists, computer scientists, mostly they spend a lot of time in front of the computer. But if we spend a lot of time with the animal, I think there's a lot of new things that we can pick up, and we can use. We have the intuitive sense what can be extracted from sensors, those type of things. So I think that's how I got the ideas. That's how I have the system design. So definitely, the animal is my favorite source, and then it's the farmer, because you have to talk to farmers to know what they want. It's not what we think the farmers want, but what the farmers want. So you know that by talking to the farmers. So without those two, you can't have a good solution. Because if you just come up with, there's a good chance you might come up with something that they don't like to use, right? So you need to understand their need, the farmer's need.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's probably one of the more unique answers I've got, but it clearly makes sense. Look at the pig. This is what we're working for. So I love that answer. So our next one is, what is a favorite book or resource outside of agriculture?
Outside of agriculture, I pretty much read a lot of fashion magazine, fashion news, those type of thing. It's kind of funny. Before I just somehow just randomly got into academia. Before then, I wanted to be a fashion designer. Yeah, it's pretty strange path. But I think that's very helpful, because I think in fashion you don't want to repeat what other people did. You want to come up with something new. So that's very good for me to be creative, not just trying to copy someone's work, change a little bit, but try to come up with something completely new. So I think that kind of habit helps me a lot in the research field. Yeah.
Oh, I think that's great. So our last question is, when you look back at, say, mentors you've had or other leaders or successful swine producers, what is a characteristic that they all seem to share that makes them particularly successful?
So my family keeps telling me to focus on creating values. So that's what I believe what a good leader should have. They need to have this crave to make positive impact on the society. And once you can bring positive impact, then other things will come along. And I think in this process, I think it's very important to treat everyone well, and whether say if you have if there's a product and you have farmers, you have your own employee, how can you get everyone to enjoy the outcome of it, right? A lot of time, some of them feels like they are being, being taken advantage of, and that's something I don't like to see. I want to see farmers really gets the benefit, and just the students working on the technology, they can get awarded from their hard work, and producer also gets benefit. So that's something I really hope to achieve someday.
Yeah. No, excellent. Totally agree. So I'll just end, thank you once again for coming on the show. I think it's been really good. I'm very interested to see the furthering of this research and with the new stuff that you're working on. So I think we'll definitely have to have you again on the show once you start getting some of those results. So thank you once again.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.